I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all for being here. All right. Do I have approval of the agenda?
I think we do the roll call first.
Oh, roll call. Whoops, I always miss Karen, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Commissioner Andrew? Here. Commissioner French?
Here.
Commissioner Garrison?
Here.
Commissioner Donnell? Here. Commissioner Kalani?
Here.
All present.
Okay.
I move to approve the agenda.
Second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we're moving to action item 1, which is consideration of the Brazel Road transmission main easement. Adam?
Good evening, Commissioners.
Evening.
Good evening. This is a recap a bit from the work session a week and a half ago. We're all here, either in person or on the phone, where we presented the alignment study that we had done alongside West Yost, one of our engineering consultants, for the Brazel easement property and alternate alignment study for this Phase 2 project. Of course, this is the route as proposed in the initial concept level Phase 2 planning. And then we looked at an alternative route down Redland Road and Henry C. Road to the common point on the roadway there. The property that we're talking about, or that's the subject of this item tonight, is this property here, labeled easement area in your Exhibit A. As again, this map was from last week, so you should be familiar with that. As you learned last week, we addressed, or we studied some key planning, technical, and cost considerations for this study, and the recommendations from our consultant and our staff agrees with is to not proceed with the easement, but to consider the alternate route.
Okay. Thank you, Adam.
So if I can
Yes.
add to this, because this is a little bit different as far as how it's set up on the agenda this evening. So what we need from the board is to make a decision on what to do with respect to the easement. And the reason we need to do this sooner is because if you want us to move forward with the easement, then we have to make sure that we're getting the survey work done in order to have that completed in order to execute the easement agreement. We have not done that yet. We've not spent money on that yet. The other thing to note is in your agenda item, you actually have 2 motions, so you get to choose between the 2. The first motion would, in essence, direct staff to no longer proceed with securing that easement. And then the second motion would actually direct us to move forward with that easement. So you have a choice this evening as to the way it's set up. As Adams mentioned, you had the report from the consultant that said that the Henrici alignment was a preferred alternative, and that's something that staff concurs with. So,
I did have a question. I was thinking about it. Was the Henry C. Road became more favorable after you did the water plan? And would we have not known about that, being able to do more of the water master plan when it was first decided to do Grassel Road? That was before we had the water master plan. So the water master plan is part of the reason that this other route has become more favorable. Is that true?
That's a good question, and the master plan's completion certainly helped us, consider that as a factor with, what we compared these 2 routes with. I wouldn't say that it was all of the consideration, though. Even prior to the master plan, we knew we had possible different routes to accomplish this Phase 2 waterline alignment. So the master plan, again, being completed, did point out some CIP value, some future project value that we could tackle with this alternate route.
Rusty?
Yeah. Would you say that the West Yost alignment study looked at the 2 most likely, most favorable routes of the options available?
Yes, I would say so. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I mean, they both follow, for the most part, paved roads, and the alternate to the Grassel Road was all along public right-of-way. And I think that that was probably the defining document that showed which route was the better route of those two. And those two were the best of perhaps more than two. There were several possible routes.
Yeah, when it comes down to it, we are trying to look at feasibility from a shortest distance between 2 points concept as well. So, that was one of the reasons the original Grassl route was selected. On a map, it's much more convenient to do that than it is to loop around here, be it public right of way or not. However, when we were granted permission to study this southern part of this project on private property and go through the feasibility work on site that we did and found the issues that we found with that hillside, then of course that did become leading into that recommendation for the other alignment.
Is there anything left that we need to do in terms of due diligence on this? Any further studies we need to do? Or is this sufficient due diligence to make a decision?
So Adam, I'm going to jump in.
Sure.
So I want to make sure that we understand what the board's being asked tonight. So tonight, it's just, what should we do with respect to the easement? What we are
On
not.
Grassl Road?
Right, what you are not doing tonight is making any decisions associated with the Phase 2 backbone program.
Okay,
So that's something we need to, we owe the board a whole analysis as it relates to what our funding availability is and all of that. We want to have all of those discussions so we give you the full picture. So
Okay.
tonight, we're just talking about the easements as it relates to.
got it.
Correct.
Thank you.
That.
But-
Does that help?
But doesn't that mean if we decide not to continue with the easement, we're basically saying that we're going to do the Henry's? Because once we don't have the easement, then the Grassl Road is off the table, right?
So, and this is where I want to caution the board, again, where it doesn't mean that that's exactly what you're going to do.
Okay.
You're not making that decision yet, because frankly, you need to find out what is our bonding capacity? There's a whole slew of different questions that we need to develop the information and do that analysis to give you that material so that then you can make an informed decision with all the information.
So there is further due diligence on what route we might want.
Well, I think it's more further due diligence as it relates to how we approach the Phase 2.
Okay. All right, thank you for your
If we're
bigger
going
picture.
to, what are, right, so that's not,
Because we're trying
I
to,
understand.
right, we need to, again, one of the things that we've talked to the board about is making sure we're coming back to you with some of the financial information, what can we borrow in order to do projects and what's our best options.
Cost versus benefit.
You?
Well, as I understand this, then the motion is to do away with that initial, right? And then move to authorize the purchase of that second. Is that?
No, so that's a good question, so let me clarify that. So you have two completely separate motions that you're only asked to make one of them. So one motion tells us, quit pursuing the easement and be done with it. The second motion tells us, move forward and secure the easement. So you pick the way this has been set up in your agenda packet is the board has been given the option to either tell us to move forward with the easement or tell us we're done with the easement.
I have a question.
So you only make one motion, only one of these motions.
Okay, then
A motion?
the recommendation is for the second one on.
The recommendation is actually for the first motion,
That
or
we don't-
direct staff not to
Not to
proceed
pursue
with
Grassl.
further work.
But if we don't do the first one, then obviously the second one is the one that's going to be studied, is that correct?
No, we've already studied the alignment, and that was the subject of the work session with West Yost and.
Well, that's what I thought. So then, if we disapprove the first one, say no on that, do we go ahead and vote On the second motion?
If somebody else makes a motion.
What we, okay, Rusty?
Madam Chair, don't we need a motion on the table to further discuss this?
We had changed the procedure to
Yeah.
whether we were going to discuss it and then do the motion.
It's okay for you to ask questions to make sure you're informed before you make the motion.
But are we-
But as to debate between the options, you should save that until after a motion is on the table.
Okay.
Okay,
Are
so,
we,
hold on. Any other questions, Cousin? Do you have one?
No, I can wait until we
Okay,
get down to the real discussion.
okay. All right, so, motion?
Okay. I move the board direct staff not to proceed with further work toward the purchase of a water line easement on TL 300 map 2S 32E 12A and allow the period to execute the easement to expire.
Okay, Karen? would you-
second
You
motion?
second.
Now you can have your discussion.
Now you can discuss.
Oh, now discuss, all right, all
We're
right.
good, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay, well, I think last week that, you know, and I gotta give credit to Wes Yost, that was quite a presentation. But, we're down to, do we go forward with Grousel Road? Or say, after what we learned last week and photos we've seen and whatnot? Or do we go forward with Henrici? Or, well, I shouldn't say go forward.
Or do, oh no, it's.
Not
go
do
or
Grousel
go.
Road, but then we're kind of leaning towards the other one, I think is what we're all kind of thinking, that we don't do Grousel, then we kind of leaning more towards the Easy Road going forward right now. I mean, I looked at the numbers and whatnot, I mean, you know, if you look at the CIPs that are involved, we can save like $2.5 million. And the CIPs that would be involved mainly deal with, shoot, where we go here? I was looking for, well, yeah, fire flow, water flow, that type of thing. So, you know, I know a lot of time and money's been put in to this Grousel Road. I guess it's kind of, do we want to go ahead after knowing what we know, seeing what we seen last week with that? Or do we want to just say no? Or, you know, that doesn't seem the best option. And, you know, like I said, it does, I feel it kind of means we kind of are leaning to do the Henry's route. Bob George, months ago, or quite a while ago.
Years ago.
Well, not years, I haven't been here that long.
Over a year.
Yeah, but just before he left, actually, did give us the options. I mean, he, in an executive session, we went through it, he did give us the different options and whatnot to think about at that time also. So, I guess it's, you know, are we gonna go forward with Grousel Road, knowing what we know and what we've seen, or not? That's kind of the question.
Yeah, that's the question. I think Henrici Road is simply a likely alternative, but not the question under discussion.
Right. Anyone else? That's it? You? You're sitting like this, you're gonna burst. Come on. You know, because now's the time, you know, that's what it's for, is to
No,
discuss
that's
it. Well, it's, okay, you live off Henrici Road.
Well, quite a ways from
I know,
this.
but it's gonna be, yeah, but, you know, I mean, I don't know, what do you guys think?
So we have a motion on the floor not to go ahead with continuing with the easement. So we have to vote on it.
So,
At some point,
anybody have anything else to say?
Madam Chair, I'll call the question.
Okay, okay.
Commissioner Andrew?
yes,
Commissioner Danell?
Are we voting yes on no?
We're voting
Yes, on the
to
first
not to
one.
proceed
Okay.
with Grousel Road. Yeah.
Yes.
Commissioner French?
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Adam.
you. Thank you for doing that feasibility study too. That pointed out a lot of
yeah, it was a good one.
concerns that I had.
Right, any public comment? All right, I am going to adjourn the special meeting part And we are going to, thank you, we are going to go to the work session.